Halloween is coming. Actually, I don't feel too horrific, really, at the moment. I feel quite whimsical, really. But it is coming. And one of the reasons why I am going to be giving you a review on Steve Swift's Rambling Reviewers here, of course, of a 1971 Brit horror flick, which has become a bit of a cult classic. I'm giving you that because I've been pulled into that by something I'm going to be doing on Saturday. I'm going to be going to the theatre. I haven't done that for quite some time, folks. Quite some time. And I'm going to be watching a portmanteau horror movie play. Now, I love my portmanteau films from Hammer, as you know. My favourite is the one with Peter Cushing. Is it? It's not Vault of Horror, is it? Is it Tales from the Crypt? It isn't, is it? What's it called? It's the one where he's the antique dealer. That one, you know. When Ian Carmichael is in one of the stories with the elemental on his shoulder, you know. When he buys the snuff box and changes the prices. And Peter Cushing's character knows that and says, "Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy snuffing it." That's it's lovely. Snuff box, snuffing it. And it's got David Warner and Ian Ogilvy in the stories that open and close. And in the middle, you've got Ian Bannon, who plays Shabby so well, with Donald Pleasance, who also plays Shabby so well, with his daughter Angela Pleasance in the same film. They I don't know how many films they did together. It wasn't many. And also Diana Dawes in one story. But I love Tales That Witness Madness, even if it's not very good. I like I love Asylum, Vault of Horror, of course, and all of those. Tales from the Crypt, all of those. And I even love things like the house that dripped blood. Denham Elliott in there, and particularly the last vignette with John Pertwee as a vampire actor, Dracula actor. And the reason why I'm talking about these portmanteau films is because the play I'm going to see, which is called Dreams of the Dark, two-hander, it's a portmanteau horror play. Now, there are horror plays about, but you don't see very many horror portmanteau plays. Now, if you're in the Manchester area, they've had great reviews for this play, and it's coming to the Edge Theatre at Chorlton. So if you're in Manchester, go and have a look. I'll be there on Saturday. We might meet, you never know. And I'll review it, I think. And I'm looking forward to it immensely, actually. So do have a look. The Edge Theatre in Chorlton. And do enjoy. I know I will. Now, to this 1971 not Hammer movie. Now, I saw this on YouTube, and there are a couple of gentlemen who watch horror movies, and then in the middle of it they talk about that, and they talk about this being a bit different to other Hammer movies because it's quite washed out. It looks quite it's a bit like The Outcast from 1982, which I also need to review, but it's windswept, and it's a very barren landscape, and it's quite it's not florid in the way that, you know, with some kind of bright colours sometimes. Hammer like to do that brightness, particularly with the blood, particular Hammer blood. But there's a reason for that. It's because it serves the film. But also, this is a Tygon movie. You know, Tony Tenser's company, and they did all sorts of, I think they did on the Buses movie. I think they did Magnificent Seven Deadly Sins. Just great. And this is one of theirs. Now, this is The Blood on Satan's Claw, which has become a bit of a cult because The Wicker Man comes out in 1973. So it is a precursor to all of that kind of folk horror. The Wicker Man is a significantly better movie, but this is interesting. It's about, I think, feudalism, and I'm looking at the notes I've got, and the way that the understanding of who controls things can be changed. It's like It's in the late 1970s when we had the trade union movement. I might be going completely off beam here, and there were people at the top of the trade union movement who were talking to the Labour Party saying, yes, we will do a deal to suppress wages to 5%. And at the grassroots, the shop stewards on the floor, the factory floor, were saying, we're not having that. We want 25% or we want 18%. So they couldn't hold the grassroots down. That's the way it is here. Patrick Wymark is the judge, and he's the sort of controller of the whole thing. He plays it with real relish, and it's almost as if he is there's something a bit odd. He's not entirely how can I put this, not entirely a nice and sweet gentleman. He certainly, we get we have, I'm not quite sure of the relationship between him actually, him and Peter Edmonton, played by Simon Williams, with a kind of really floppy hair. Doesn't suit him at all. Always a good-looking gentleman, Simon Williams. He was in, wasn't he in Don't Wait Up? Was he in the Brothers, the Doctors? It was Tony Britton, wasn't it? And the Doctor's Latimer, wasn't it, I think? Anyway, he has an intendant who then becomes disturbed by something in the night and is carted off to some kind of, well, bedlam. That's what they call it, bedlam, to an emotional and mental illness facility. And after that, things start to change. Patrick Wymark, you see, is not constant. He is not. He's clearly a drunkard and doesn't have, this is the way I see it, doesn't have the kind of stature that people feel they need to offer fealty to him. He comes and goes, and when he's not there, this happens in The Vampire Lovers, doesn't it? In that the sort of master of the house, played by George Cole, I can't remember what the character's name is, leaves to go on a business trip, and that's when all the trouble starts. When he comes back, it's too late by then. Now, this is about whether Patrick Wymark, I suppose, will be able to come back as the judge and take control. While he's gone, there is a grassroots, and quite literally, this is all about fecund paganism, but nothing really grows here. Generally, you see greys and stone and people coming of age sexually. I mean, quite a lot earlier, the gentlemen who are reviewing this movie mentioned that Angel Blake, who is the main, there's a bit of a crucible thing going on. Angel Blake, who is the main rabble rouser, has a scene where she tries to seduce the priest, the vicar, and she disrobes to do so. And it's quite disturbing because they remind me, one, that she was 17 years old when this happened. There is also quite a lot of coming of age, let's ritualise the disrobing or the forcible stripping of a young woman, Kathy Vespers, played by Wendy Padbury. It's much better done in The Wicker Man. I mean, Tony Tenser was well thought of as a kind of, not well thought of, but thought of, some people tutted about this, as a kind of exploitation movie director and producer. And in The Wicker Man, you get the real feeling of sexuality without, well, there is some sex in there, but without this kind of forcible kind of feeling. Everyone is sort of forcing themselves. It has a sense of a Brit sex comedy, because while The Wicker Man, for instance, is set up beautifully and you know exactly what's happening there, and they've been in their paganistic life for some time, this appears to be, well, we are going to summon up some kind of dark lord. which is based around paganism, and we only just started, so actually we have the exuberance of youth. That's the sort of thing, really. On the other hand, you've got Barry Andrews, who is in Lust for a Vampire, I think, as well, isn't he? No, he's not, is he? What else is he? He's in another Hammer film. He's got curly hair and a winsome look. He's playing Ralph Gower. He's a sort of handyman, and he's desperate to. He's got a kind of modern thinking, because at one point, one of Angel Blake's squad, Margaret, played by Michelle Doutrice, with real kind of gusto, actually, excuse me, they find her and throw her in the river, because if she floats, she'll be a witch, and if she doesn't, she won't. And so he pulls her out the river, brings her back to health, but she's addicted. She's addicted to Angel Blake, and she goes back to Angel, and she wants that ritualistic situation. So it's about being fecund, but there is nothing fecund here. In The Wicker Man, it is about the harvest is failing, and living from germinating is really important. Here, everything's a bit bleak, and although you get a scene with Ralph cutting the grass, it's dry and there's no sense that anything is growing, and consequently that doesn't really help you when you're looking at. It's all about location, isn't it? It's about. It's supposed to be about having that basis of life, and all of life is here, and lots of women and men come into their own sexuality, all of that. There's also a bit of hokum about the devil's skin. You get a little bit of hair on your either on your back, or as far as Ralph Gower goes, all over his leg. He doesn't even realise until he cuts himself with a scythe. Oh, I've got a bit of a cut there. Oh my God, my leg is really hairy. You'd know that, wouldn't you? I know bathing wasn't a priority in those days, but you'd know. It's set in the sort of Victorian, sort of general Victorian times. You've got James Hayter doing a very fruity part of Squire Middleton, who arrests with great elan the vicar, and then when Ralph says it's not him, it was Angel Blake, we saw it. He says, "Oh, well, let him go." He spent quite a lot of the film arresting him and go to a restaurant and all that. He's got that very fruity, that very kind of fruity Mr. Kipling kind of delivery, hasn't he? And then they just let him go. The vicar disappears after that. But this is the crucible, and also that they have nothing. There is nothing, and also that there's no real feudalism. We don't know who's at the top. We don't know what the links are, and so we don't know what the strata is, or the stratums are, I think. So that allows somebody to make a claim, and Angel Blake does. And the denouement is that the demon is, as Michelle Doutrice says, it's too late, you be too late. You be, kind of a West Country thing. You be too late, he'll be too strong. And there is a demon summoned up. It's a bloke in a monkey outfit, really, with a funny mask. And what Patrick Wymark is able to do is Patrick's not the most athletic gentleman at this point, and he has a big sword, lifts up the demon on the sword. How he does that, I do not know. This is a demon you're talking about, and although he does just resemble a chimpanzee, to be honest, and then throws him on the fire, and everybody's devil's skin, the bit of fur they've got, which would keep you warm on a winter's evening, disappears, and everybody's back to normal because the judge has come back. Never mind that the judge is quite dissolute. He saved the day. It's a bit confused, this movie. It is a bit sensationalist. There is that sexuality and all that, so there's quite a lot of female nudity. Not a lot, actually. A little bit of female nudity, which seems egregious, particularly when you consider what can be done in The Wicker Man. And It is well known as a cult movie because it started all of that. And it's confused, but it's nascent. And it has the germ of something, a germination of something. If only we could have seen that germination on the screen. But we didn't. It's a curio, but nothing more than that. Ta-ta.